I wanted to get to this too. It kind of relates to what we're talking about. The Conman 1010-2 or 10102 says he was watching Matt Gelb's live stream, and it seems like there was an implication that they were right on the edge of landing Quan until the last minute, and then it got hung up on Painter. And so I guess the question for you, Bob, is would you have traded Andrew Painter to get a player like Stephen Kwan? And would that have helped this year?
If they had done it, I would not have come on here and ripped them for doing it. I don't think that's outlandish. I don't think it's absurd. That being said, if you really believe that Andrew Painter is everything that you have said he is, and you've hung on to him this long, and you've guided him to the brink of becoming a factor at the major league level, then pivoting off of that in this moment, to me, is strategically strange. I will say this, and it's not the kid's fault whatsoever, but this dude better be good. I mean, he will come up, right or wrong, fair or not, with a tremendous amount of pressure. One, in terms of just the overall, the way that he's ranked in the prospect rankings, the way that he's been talked about, the way that he's been protected by this organization. We talk about pitch limits and just we can't touch him. He's got to be the guy. Like, there have been so many different factors in terms of how they've handled him that he better be good. Because man, there's not going to be a lot of understanding if he's not good. And I think people need to know this. He's not Paul Skeens. He's not. I don't expect him to come up and be Justin Verlander within 3 months. I just don't think that's what we're getting here. I think he's going to be a good pitcher. Maybe he's a guy that profiles eventually as the top of the rotation arm. I wouldn't be surprised by that, but he's going to come up here with an extraordinary amount of pressure. And I hope that his overall psyche and mental makeup is going to be ready for that.
Yeah, and I get the sense from having spoken to him several times now that he does have that right makeup, right? Like I don't get the sense that he's a guy that's going to crack under the pressure. Just from he's very well trained in this, right? Like, this is something that I think that's why the Phillies kind of buy it a little bit. I don't think that they don't think that he is that guy who's going to crack in those situations. But you never know until it happens. So we will see. The one reason I probably would not have made the trade, and look, I thought Stephen Kwan would have been a great fit here, especially when all these teams are going out and loading up on bullpen arms to throw 100 miles an hour. The thing you want most against those guys is guys who make contact, right? And so Stephen Kwan to me would have been an ideal addition to this team. But I probably still would not. I probably would have done the same thing that the Phillies did and not make the deal, knowing that Painter is your best prospect for this very reason. Tonight we're going to get down to the ballpark and they're going to honor Jimmy Rollins, putting him on the Wall of Fame. Ed Wade, they're going to put him on the Wall of Fame. And why do I bring that up? Because those teams wouldn't be those teams if the Phillies did what people wanted them to do yesterday, in the sense of trade away the farm, right? When you get Jimmy Rollins, Chase Utley, Ryan Howard, Cole Hamels, Carlos Ruiz, like you go through that core of that team were prospects that hit, right? And credit to Ed Wade, because he brought all of them in here, right?
And he refused to trade them in years where they had a chance. I mean, he was a punching bag. I hated Ed Wade.
Yeah.
High school me hated Ed Wade.
Yeah.
And they don't win. I mean, certainly they don't win in 08 without him.
Right, exactly. So at some point you have to, trust your evaluation. Yes, there's going to be the Don Browns of the world, right? Where, okay, we held on to him and he didn't turn out and he didn't pan out, right? So every once in a while you're going to have those. But sometimes, and the one thing that I think, and you've said it yourself on this show, that bringing Dombrowski in here was bringing an adult into the organization, creating that development, the player development pipeline that was not in existence and there's a reason why the Phillies sucked for 10 years, because they really didn't have that minor league development kind of stuff in place. He brought people in here who fixed that, right? And so as a result, the Phillies are able to get 6 top 100 prospects. And so they are able to self-evaluate better. And part of the deal, for trading for Duran, I'll go with you. I'll have to train myself to not say Duran, but Duran. But part of getting Duran was including Eduardo Tait, who a lot of people say was the second best prospect traded yesterday. after the DeVries kid from San Diego who went to the A's in the Mason Miller deal. And you include a player that good. Well, the Phillies internally had him behind Aaron Escobar. So therefore, they didn't look at him as giving up their fourth best prospect. They looked at it giving up their fifth best prospect. Right. So like sometimes those internal evaluations matter more. And if the Phillies are internally evaluating Andrew Painter and saying this is the next Garrett Cole, then they're right to not trade him.
Well, it's also easy in the moment too to say, well, you have all this starting pitching. Do you really? If you could go out and get a true difference maker, put him at the top of your lineup, somebody that infuses his team with a different energy, a different look, some new life, don't you do that? But then you fast forward a year or two. Let's assume that Wheeler, the clock is ticking and that he's going to retire when he says he's going to. Christopher Sanchez is a nice piece. He's under control. That's great. Ranger Suarez, we don't know what his future is going to be. Right now, I'd say it's probably unlikely that he's back here. Aaron Nola, certainly under contract, and they're going to pay him big money. But what is Aaron Nola? Aaron Nola has to come back in a couple of weeks and reestablish himself at this point and kind of put everybody on notice that he's still the pitcher that he was last year. And will he be that moving forward? There's a lot of uncertainty. You just traded Mick Abel. Now, did I think 4 months ago that Mick Abel was going to be part of this future rotation? I didn't, but he did enough this year to pitch himself into the conversation. He's not here. So when you look at it and say, oh, they're 7-8 deep, in reality, fast forward a year or two, and it's not so clear. It's not so certain. And the other part of this is there's some criticism that they didn't go all in. Like that is in essence. I don't need to label it that way. It's not so much about being all in or championship or bust mentality. That's not my problem with what happened yesterday. But the thing that you have to keep in mind as well is that these prospects don't just vanish after the trade deadline. You still have them. You have them this winter. When you start to reevaluate and try to reconstruct an aging roster and say, all right, is there anything out there now in the offseason landscape where we could utilize these prospects to maybe do something a little bit more creative? You're in a situation where you're competitive at the trade deadline next year. You have not depleted 4 of your top 10 prospects. You can re-engage in future conversations. It's not that all of these guys are going to come up and produce for the Phillies, but what it does is it allows you to continue to cultivate that depth and allow you different avenues to piece together a roster moving forward that continues to win. So I don't kill them for that. I just would have liked to have seen something a little bit more, I'll use this word, consequential in terms of changing the feel of the overall lineup. And that's why I think it just falls a little bit flat for me. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the last thing I'll say about that, Bob, before we move on, and I'm kind of with you. Like, they didn't necessarily need to do more in the outfield per se, right? Like, I mean, when you look at what was traded, I think Bader, first of all, Bader had the highest FWAR of any outfielder that got traded yesterday. So the Phillies got the player who's done the most this year. Ramon Laureano is close. I mean, really close.
I really like Ramon Laureano. That's the guy I wanted.
Yeah.
He's actually been pretty good against righties this year because everyone says, oh, it's only about left-handed. I liked him. He was having a good year. I think he's a – yeah.
You and Joe Karmazin.
Yeah, I did. Well. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and tell you the guy is,
But I mean, but no. But what I'm saying is like of the outfielders that were traded, he's the only one that's comparable to Bader. Everybody else is behind the two of them, right? Okay. So the Phillies, whether you want to say they got the best guy or the second best outfielder that got traded yesterday, they did. So it didn't necessarily have to be about that. Like you pointed out, it could have been bring in somebody else to play second base. I know Bryson Stott's your guy, but maybe you put him on the bench or send him down or something or whatever. Or maybe you upgrade third base and figure out something without, like, there were other avenues that you could have gone down that would have shaken up the clubhouse, no question. And maybe they weighed that. Maybe they weighed that decision and say, do we really want to upset that apple cart? Or what's the better? What's
I
the
don't think
better?
that Boom. I don't think any team called yesterday and said, "Hey, what's up with Alec Bohm?" And it's tough too with the Phillies. Like, though I am critical of Alec Bohm, and I don't necessarily view him as a long-term solution to third base because of the lack of power. They are offensively challenged as it is, and to subtract what is one of your better bats, it's a tough thing to do. But I don't think that there'd probably be a ton of interest from other teams in Alec Bohm. I do wonder if other teams said Bryson Stott could be a change of scenery guy. Not that he doesn't like it here, not that he's miserable and not playing well because of the environment, but just like, hey, the glove is outstanding. We know that there's more to his game offensively. You guys need to win now, probably need more immediate production from second base. That would be a player that would be interesting to us. I wonder if any teams floated his name out there in conversations. I don't think the Phillies would have been particularly moved to do it, especially because it feels like a sell low spot on a player that you like and that you still probably believe in to some degree. But I do wonder if there was any conversation whatsoever about not just Stott outbound, but saying, can we do something at second base to get more here down the stretch? I mean, Donovan would have been, that would have been a
David Whitman says Donovan of St. Louis would have been a nice pickup. Obviously, listen, there was reports that the Phillies did talk to the Cardinals, that they were asking about names like Donovan and Lars Nootbaar and Alec Burleson.
Yeah.
Ultimately, none of those guys were traded from St. Louis. None of them got traded. The Cardinals decided to hold on to all of them. All of them have different varying degrees of control. But Donovan's a guy that could have played every position on the field. I mean, like, he could have played anywhere. He plays second, third, left, and right. He could back up at short and center. Like, he could be an emergency center fielder. He has played shortstop in the past. So you could have done something like that, but you would have probably had to give up more than you wanted to get him.
Sure. One other observation that I had yesterday, you saw just moment after moment these trade rumors coming out online and your Passons and Nightingales of the world and all these guys, and they're floating all these names and prospects.
John Heyman linked the Phillies to 36 different players.
Yeah, John Heyman's
it's unbelievable. Every tweet the Phillies were in.
He's the one that I go, yeah, whatever. I just kind of scroll right past it. Even Nightingale's a little bit like, all right.
Yeah.